Julian Davenport III was a name synonymous with power and privilege. His skyscraper office, perched high above the glittering cityscape, was a testament to his empire. From his tailored Italian suits to his fleet of luxury cars, every aspect of Julian's life screamed wealth. But beneath the polished exterior resided an arrogance that bordered on legendary. He'd inherited a fortune, yes, but he'd multiplied it tenfold, crushing competitors and seizing opportunities with ruthless efficiency. Relationships, however, were another matter. Julian viewed them as messy, inconvenient, and ultimately a distraction from his pursuit of greater riches. He dated, of course, a revolving door of models and socialites, each one carefully vetted for beauty and pedigree but never allowed anyone to get close. Emotional vulnerability was a weakness he couldn't afford. His world revolved around board meetings, stock tickers, and closing deals. The human connection seemed like an unnecessary complication. Julian believed that money could buy happiness, or at least a reasonable facsimile thereof. He had everything a man could want: a sprawling penthouse, a private jet, and the unwavering respect, or fear, of his peers. Love, commitment, genuine connection? Those were fairy tales for the less fortunate, those who couldn't simply purchase their desires. He was a master of his universe, and in his universe, emotions were commodities to be bought and sold, not felt. This would be his undoing. 5 years ago, the grand ballroom shimmered under the soft glow of chandeliers. It was the annual Hearts for Hope charity gala, a glittering affair filled with the city's elite. Julian, ever the cynosure, stood near the champagne fountain, a sardonic smile playing on his lips as he surveyed the scene. He considered the event a necessary evil, a photo opportunity to bolster his public image. Amelia, then a young, hopeful architect, approached him with a nervous smile. She'd admired Julian from afar for years, captivated by his ambition and undeniable charisma despite his less appealing public persona. Gathering her courage, she offered him a heartfelt compliment on a recent project, her cheeks flushed with a mixture of admiration and anticipation. "Mr. Davenport," she began, her voice slightly trembling, "I've been so impressed with the Davenport Tower. The sustainable design is truly remarkable." Julian's eyes flicked over her, assessing her simple, elegant dress and earnest expression. He recognized the glint of admiration, the subtle invitation in her gaze. With a dismissive wave of his hand, he cut her off. "Flattery will get you nowhere, Mississippi," he paused, feigning ignorance. "I don't believe we've met." Humiliation washed over Amelia. The surrounding conversation seemed to fade, replaced by the pounding of her own heart. She stammered, "Amelia Hayes. I just wanted to say." "Save your breath," Julian interrupted, his voice dripping with condescension. "I don't mix business with pleasure, and frankly, you're not my type." He then turned his back on her, effectively ending the conversation and leaving Amelia to stand alone, mortified in the crowded ballroom. The memory of that night, the sting of his rejection, still burned fresh in her mind. 5 years had transformed Amelia. The shy, insecure architect was gone, replaced by a confident and successful entrepreneur. Hayes Design, her firm, was now a major player in the industry, known for its innovative and sustainable designs. She had poured her energy and ambition into her work, driven by a desire to prove not just to the world but also to herself that she was capable of greatness. Julian Davenport's cruel words had served as a bizarre form of motivation, fueling her determination to succeed. Amelia commanded attention now, not with tentative smiles and hopeful glances, but with sharp wit and unwavering self-assurance. Her office, a vibrant space filled with natural light and collaborative workspaces, reflected her personality, bold, creative, and unapologetically modern. The memory of Julian's rejection still lingered, a faint scar on her pride, but it no longer defined her. It had, in fact, become a source of strength, a reminder of how far she had come. She hadn't forgotten his face, the coldness in his eyes, the dismissive tone. She remembered the shame, the feeling of being utterly insignificant. But now she knew her worth. She had built a company from the ground up, earned the respect of her peers, and created a life she was proud of. When she heard that Davenport Industries was interested in partnering with Hayes Design on a new project, a flicker of apprehension mixed with a surge of defiant excitement ran through her. This was her chance to show Julian Davenport exactly what he had missed. This time, the power dynamic would be very different. The first meeting was held in Julian's imposing office. Amelia entered with her team, her head held high, projecting an aura of quiet confidence. Julian, seated at the head of the mahogany table, barely glanced up from his papers as she approached. He'd reviewed Hayes Design's portfolio, of course, impressed by their innovative approach to sustainable architecture. Still, he expected Amelia to be the same starry-eyed admirer he remembered from the gala. He was wrong. When he finally looked up, he was met with a cool, professional gaze. Amelia offered a polite, businesslike greeting, her voice steady and devoid of any hint of the past. "Mr. Davenport," she said, extending her hand. "Thank you for considering Hayes' design for this project." Julian took her hand, surprised by the firmness of her grip. He couldn't help but notice the transformation. Gone was the awkward girl, in her place stood a woman of substance and poise. As the meeting progressed, Amelia took charge, presenting her team's vision with clarity and conviction. She anticipated his questions, countered his objections with well-researched data, and demonstrated a deep understanding of the project's complexities. Julian found himself increasingly impressed and slightly unnerved. He had expected to be in control, to dictate the terms of the partnership. Instead, Amelia held her own, challenging his assumptions and pushing back on his demands with remarkable skill. He realized that he had underestimated her, dismissing her as a naive admirer when, in reality, she was a force to be reckoned with. This business deal was going to be much more interesting and challenging than he had anticipated. The old Julian might have been annoyed, but a flicker of something else, intrigue, perhaps even admiration, began to stir within him. The project moved forward, forcing Julian and Amelia into constant communication. Their interactions were a carefully choreographed dance of professional courtesy and thinly veiled tension. Julian, used to getting his way, would often make demands, testing Amelia's resolve. But Amelia refused to be intimidated. She met his arrogance with sharp wit and unwavering confidence, turning his attempts at dominance into opportunities for playful sparring. "I'm not sure your budget can handle the level of sustainability we're proposing, Mr. Davenport," Amelia said during one particularly heated discussion about eco-friendly materials. "Unless, of course, you're willing to sacrifice one of your yachts." Julian chuckled, surprised by her audacity. "I'm sure we can find a compromise, Miss Hayes. Perhaps you'd be willing to lower your standards." "Never," Amelia retorted, her eyes sparkling with defiance. "We believe in quality, not cutting corners." Their banter became a regular feature of their meetings, a way of testing each other's boundaries and establishing a new dynamic. Julian found himself strangely enjoying the challenge. Amelia was the first person in a long time who didn't fawn over him or readily agree with his every word. She stood her ground, defended her ideas, and wasn't afraid to call him out on his behavior. Amelia, on the other hand, found a certain satisfaction in pushing back against Julian's ego. It was a small act of revenge, a way of reclaiming her power after the humiliation she had suffered years ago. But beneath the surface of their witty exchanges, a subtle current of attraction began to simmer. The tension wasn't just animosity, it was something more complex, something potentially dangerous. As the project progressed, Julian found himself observing Amelia more closely. It wasn't just her sharp wit or her business acumen that caught his attention, it was the quiet acts of kindness he witnessed, the genuine concern she showed for her employees, and her unwavering commitment to sustainable practices. He saw her patiently mentoring junior architects, donating her time to community projects, and advocating for ethical sourcing of materials. He began to see beyond her physical appearance, beyond the elegant dresses and the confident demeanor, to the core of who she was, a compassionate and intelligent woman with a deep sense of purpose. He noticed the way her eyes lit up when she spoke about her passion for architecture, the way she listened intently to others, and the genuine empathy she displayed. He even saw her at a soup kitchen one Saturday morning, quietly serving meals to the homeless. Julian realized that he had been so focused on external appearances and superficial qualities for so long that he had completely missed the depth and complexity of Amelia's character. He had judged her based on a fleeting impression, a superficial assessment made years ago, and he had been terribly wrong. He started to question his own values, his own priorities. Was wealth and power truly all that mattered? Or was there something more to life, something he had been missing all along? The thought was unsettling, but also strangely compelling. He found himself drawn to Amelia's warmth and authenticity, qualities that were sorely lacking in his own world. The design phase of the project required constant collaboration. Site visits, late-night meetings to review blueprints, and even an unexpected crisis involving a delayed shipment of materials forced Julian and Amelia to spend countless hours together. These shared experiences, both challenging and rewarding, fostered a reluctant respect between them. During one particularly grueling week, they were both stuck at the construction site until the early hours of the morning, trying to resolve the material delay. Exhausted and frustrated, they finally managed to find a solution. Working side by side, their initial animosity replaced by a shared sense of accomplishment. They ended up grabbing coffee at a small diner nearby, their conversation shifting from work-related issues to more personal topics. Julian found himself opening up about the pressures of running a massive corporation, the loneliness that came with his position, and the sacrifices he had made to achieve his success. Amelia, in turn, shared her own struggles, the challenges she faced as a woman in a male-dominated industry, and the sacrifices she had made to build her company. She talked about her dreams for the future, her passion for sustainable design, and her desire to make a positive impact on the world. Julian listened intently, captivated by her honesty and vulnerability. He realized that he had never truly allowed himself to connect with someone on this level before. The walls he had built around himself were starting to crumble brick by brick as he spent more time with Amelia. He still wasn't ready to admit it, but he was starting to care for her. And that was terrifying. One evening after a particularly successful presentation to the city council, Julian invited Amelia to dinner. It wasn't a business dinner, not really. It was an attempt to bridge the gap between their professional relationship and the growing, undeniable attraction that simmered beneath the surface. Over candlelight, Julian cleared his throat, his usual confidence faltering slightly. "Amelia," he began, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant, "I wanted to apologize." Amelia raised an eyebrow, her expression unreadable. "For what, Mr. Davenport? The delayed shipment of steel?" "No," Julian said, meeting her gaze directly. "For what happened 5 years ago. At the charity gala. I was arrogant, cruel, and you didn't deserve that." A flicker of pain crossed Amelia's face. The memory was still vivid, the humiliation still palpable. "It was a long time ago, Julian. It doesn't excuse my behavior," he insisted. "I was a different person then. Or at least, I thought I was. I've realized I was wrong about a lot of things. About you. About people in general." Amelia remained silent, swirling the wine in her glass. "Why are you telling me this now?" Because I want you to know that I regret it," Julian said, his voice sincere. "And because I value your opinion, your respect." Amelia finally looked up, her eyes searching his. "It's not that simple, Julian. You humiliated me. In front of everyone. That kind of thing, it leaves a mark." "I know," Julian said softly. "And I don't expect you to forgive me. Not easily, anyway. But I hope you can at least believe that I'm truly sorry." Amelia sighed, her shoulders slumping slightly. "I appreciate the apology, Julian. But forgiveness, that's going to take time." The wall she had so carefully constructed around her heart remained firmly in place. Julian understood that words were not enough. He needed to demonstrate genuine remorse and prove that he was capable of change. He started by actively listening to Amelia, valuing her opinions and supporting her ideas even when they differed from his own. He made a conscious effort to be respectful, considerate, and collaborative, treating her as an equal partner, not a subordinate. Then a crisis arose. Amelia's firm was facing a lawsuit, a frivolous claim filed by a disgruntled former employee. The legal fees were mounting, threatening to cripple Hayes' design. Julian, learning of Amelia's predicament, offered his assistance. He didn't offer money which he knew Amelia would refuse. Instead, he used his extensive network of contacts to connect her with the best lawyers in the city, lawyers who specialized in defending against such claims. He spent hours on the phone, pulling strings, leveraging his influence to ensure that Amelia received the best possible representation. He even attended some of the legal proceedings, offering her moral support. Amelia was touched by his actions, impressed by his willingness to go above and beyond to help her. She saw that he wasn't just offering lip service, he was genuinely invested in her well-being. "I don't know how to thank you, Julian," Amelia said, her voice filled with gratitude. "You didn't have to do this." "I wanted to," Julian replied, his eyes sincere. "You're a good person, Amelia. And you deserve to be treated fairly." His actions spoke louder than any words ever could. He was actively trying to rewrite their past, to prove that he was no longer the arrogant, dismissive man he once was. And slowly, Amelia was beginning to believe him. Amelia found herself caught in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. On one hand, the memory of Julian's past cruelty still lingered, a constant reminder of her vulnerability. On the other hand, she couldn't deny the evidence before her. Julian was genuinely trying to be a better person. She began to see glimpses of a softer side to him, moments of vulnerability and compassion that she never would have imagined possible. She saw him interacting with his employees, offering encouragement and support. She saw him donating to charitable causes, not for the publicity, but because he genuinely cared. She even saw him volunteering at a local animal shelter, gently petting the scared and abandoned creatures. These small acts of kindness chipped away at her skepticism, eroding the wall she had built around her heart. She started to acknowledge his efforts, to recognize the sincerity in his eyes. She still wasn't ready to completely forgive him, but she was willing to admit that he had changed. "Thank you for everything, Julian," Amelia said one evening, after the lawsuit was finally resolved in her favor. "I really appreciate it." "You're welcome, Amelia," Julian replied, a genuine smile lighting up his face. "I'm just glad I could help." "I know you're trying," Amelia continued, her voice softer now. "And I see it. I see that you're not the same person you used to be." Julian's heart skipped a beat. It wasn't a full pardon, but it was a start. It was an acknowledgement of his efforts, a glimmer of hope that perhaps one day she might be able to forgive him completely. And perhaps, just perhaps, something more could be possible between them. Just as Amelia was starting to let her guard down, a new complication arose in the form of Isabella Rossi, a glamorous and ambitious businesswoman who had her sights set on both Julian and Davenport Industries. Isabella had always been a fixture in Julian's social circle, a woman who admired his wealth and power and saw him as the ultimate prize. Seeing Julian's growing interest in Amelia, Isabella felt threatened. She began to subtly undermine Amelia, spreading rumors about her competence and trying to sabotage her work on the project. She also made a point of flaunting her own close relationship with Julian, attending social events with him and making sure that Amelia saw them together. One evening at a charity auction, Isabella deliberately engineered a misunderstanding. She told Amelia that Julian had made disparaging remarks about her firm, questioning their ability to handle the scale of the project. Amelia, hurt and confused, confronted Julian, accusing him of betraying her trust. "How could you say those things about Hayes Design?" Amelia demanded, her voice trembling with anger and disappointment. "After everything we've been through?" Julian was taken aback. "I don't know what you're talking about, Amelia. I would never say anything like that." Isabella watched from a distance, a smug smile playing on her lips. She had successfully driven a wedge between them, testing the fragile bond they had begun to build. The misunderstanding threatened to derail their growing connection, forcing them to confront their insecurities and question their trust in each other. Would they be able to overcome this obstacle, or would Isabella's machinations succeed in keeping them apart? Julian knew he had to act quickly to repair the damage caused by Isabella's lies. He couldn't let Amelia slip away. He decided to make a grand gesture, something that would show her how much she truly meant to him, something that would prove he was no longer the arrogant billionaire she had once known. He arranged for a private tour of the Davenport Tower, the building that Amelia had complimented him on years ago at the charity gala. But this wasn't just any tour. He had transformed the top floor, usually reserved for exclusive clients, into a breathtaking display of their shared project. Blueprints, models, and renderings of their design were showcased, highlighting Amelia's vision and her contributions to the project. When Amelia arrived, she was stunned by the transformation. Julian, standing amidst the display, looked nervous and vulnerable, a stark contrast to his usual confident demeanor. "Amelia," he began, his voice filled with emotion, "I wanted to show you this. To show you how much I admire your work, your talent, your passion." He stepped closer, his eyes searching hers. "But more than that, I wanted to tell you how I feel about you. I know I messed up. I hurt you. And I'm so sorry. But I've changed, Amelia. You've changed me. You've shown me what really matters in life." He took a deep breath, his vulnerability on full display. "I'm in love with you, Amelia. I'm in love with your kindness, your intelligence, your strength. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm asking for a second chance. Please, give me the opportunity to prove that I can be the man you deserve." It was a moment of raw honesty, a confession that laid bare his true feelings and exposed the transformation he had undergone. Amelia was speechless. Julian's words, his vulnerability, his grand gesture had touched her deeply. But she couldn't simply erase the past, couldn't ignore the hurt and humiliation she had endured. She needed time to process everything, to weigh her options, to decide if she could truly trust him again. She spent days wrestling with her emotions, torn between her lingering resentment and the undeniable connection she felt with Julian. She talked to her friends, her family, seeking their advice and support. She replayed their interactions in her mind, searching for any sign of insincerity, any hint that he was still the arrogant man he once was. Finally, after much deliberation, she made her decision. She couldn't deny that Julian had changed. She had witnessed his kindness, his compassion, his genuine remorse. She had seen him confront his own flaws and actively strive to become a better person. And she had felt the undeniable spark of attraction that had grown between them, a connection that transcended their past and offered the promise of a brighter future. She met Julian at the same diner where they had shared coffee during that grueling week at the construction site. "Julian," she began, her voice steady, "I've thought a lot about what you said. About what happened in the past. And about what could happen in the future." She took a deep breath. "I'm willing to give you a second chance. I believe that you've changed. And I want to see where this goes." A wave of relief washed over Julian, his face lighting up with joy. He reached across the table and took her hand, his touch gentle and sincere. "Thank you, Amelia," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. "I won't let you down." The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be challenges, misunderstandings, and moments of doubt. But Julian and Amelia were committed to building a relationship founded on mutual respect, understanding, and genuine affection. Julian continued to demonstrate his transformation, actively supporting Amelia's career, valuing her opinions, and treating her as an equal partner in all aspects of their lives. He learned to be more open and vulnerable, sharing his fears and insecurities with her and trusting her to be his confidant and his rock. Amelia, in turn, learned to let go of her resentment and embrace the possibility of a future with Julian. She appreciated his efforts to become a better person and admired his unwavering support. She challenged him to grow, to evolve, and to use his wealth and influence for good. Their relationship wasn't a fairy tale, but it was real. It was built on honesty, communication, and a deep understanding of each other's flaws and strengths. They learned to navigate their differences, to compromise, and to celebrate their successes together. The project they had embarked on, the building that had brought them together, became a symbol of their relationship, a testament to their ability to overcome obstacles and build something beautiful together. As they stood on the rooftop of the completed building, gazing at the city skyline, they knew that they had created something truly special both in their professional lives and in their personal lives. Julian, once a cocky billionaire who believed that money could buy happiness, had finally discovered the true meaning of love and connection. And Amelia, once a rejected admirer, had found her equal, her partner, and her soulmate. Their story was a reminder that even the most unlikely of beginnings can lead to the most extraordinary of endings.